That's my main problem with what Dr. Dyer's saying.
Okay, he's right there. You want to keep it down?
He didn't hear me.
Dr. Dyer, you want to come
hi.
join us?
Sure, I'd love to. How you guys doing?
Great.
Good.
This chicken's great. Good. So, Dr. Dyer.
Yes.
We were all just discussing your
Right.
first interview and all those things you said. And basically, David thinks that it's all BS.
What?
David. Yes, really?
I don't think all of it is. I mean, I'm entitled to my own opinion, right?
Absolutely. You are entitled to your opinion, and I respect it. And you know, David, you don't have to get this all at once. You know, just get a little bit at a time. That's all it takes. You know, you just start practicing it. Eventually, it becomes a way of life, and you start living from a different perspective.
I'm not really a spiritual person. I'm too busy.
Yeah, spirituality is kind of like a luxury.
That is true. I find it hard to find time to meditate.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that you're an inspired person? Do you live an inspired life? Do you feel inspired?
I have no idea.
Really? Well, let's take an example. Let's supposing I had an apple pie that we had just made. And out of this apple pie, we take one slice. We take the rest of the pie, put it over here, and I take this slice and I give it to someone. Let's say I gave it to you, Ron, and I say, Ron, what is this?
That's an apple pie?
How do you know that? How do you know it's an apple pie?
Because it came from an apple pie.
So, well, you laugh, but I mean, the truth is that's a very profound statement that you just made, that everything in the universe must be like what it came from. You take an acorn and you'll never get a rose bush out of it. You look at yourself and you ask yourself the question, where did I come from? Who am I and what am I like? You know, instead of making our choices out of the place that we really are, our authentic self, we're making them out of the ego. And every time we make choices out of the ego, all kinds of things begin to happen to us that take us away from finding meaning in our lives.
How do you know if you're making a choice from your higher self?
You gauge everything on the basis of how you feel. Are you stressed out? Are you anxious? Are you fearful? Are you angry? Do you feel good about yourself? Do you feel like you're on purpose? Do you feel like your life has any meaning? When you're operating out of the only part of yourself that is authentic, bliss is your response.
But what about the upside of ambition? I mean, I'm a filmmaker, and if I didn't, doesn't ego serve me? I mean, if I was going with the flow, I'd never get a movie made.
That's a conclusion that you come to because you think out of the ego. You know, the fact is that you might even be able to make much greater films if you came out of a higher place. Imagine yourself as being able to live and work and do everything that you do from this place that, well, it's called Dharma.
What's Dharma?
Dharma is a spiritual principle that implies there is a purpose to our lives. Like an otter has a dharma, a bird has a dharma. Everything has a purpose. And when you find yourself living from that purpose, you have found your dharma. Your dharma is something that you will be living by. And rather than constantly using the ego, you will begin to say, this is what I'm here for. It's like, I call it a calling. It's like an inner calling.
How do you know what your dharma is? Like, what if you can't even find your dharma?
Yeah, I can't even find a date, let alone my dharma.
Well, your dharma isn't anything you're ever going to find. Your dharma is something that you're always connected to. It is your divine purpose. It is something that you are aligned with throughout your entire life. The ego has kept us away from it.
Excuse me, I have to take this. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. How does this help me find a date exactly?
You don't need to find a date. If you live what I'm talking about, you'll understand that everything will be perfect and everyone that comes into your life will come in on time perfectly. You're a divine creation of God. You're a spiritual being. You don't need anyone else to confirm that.
I love that.
It's true. Dr. Dyer said it was.
It is true.
You know, I don't want you to think that I don't appreciate what you're saying. I do. Not that you would necessarily be concerned with what I'm saying, because that's the ego telling you what to think, right?
So you were listening?
Yeah, I'm listening. I just think it's good to have a plan.
Well, what's your plan?
To be a successful filmmaker, to make a name for myself, to make money, to have a good relationship.
So you're talking here about prosperity, you're talking about abundance, you're talking about happiness. I haven't have any problem with that. I've been attracting abundance and prosperity into my life forever. I think it's actually quite easy to do. I really believe in it.
For you?
Well, you know, the problem what you're talking about here is the ego. The ego and your attachments. You know, you become attached to you know, how much money you're making and how well your film is doing and is everything working the way I've been told that it should work. When you become attached to things and they go away, you then lose who you are.
But it feels so much like survival.
We're not talking about survival here. We're talking about a shift away from the morning of your life and having to do everything for external reasons and moving into a higher place in your life.
Why don't we start with that tomorrow? How to make this shift?
It's a good idea. You know, I tell my audiences all the time that if this is something new to you and you've never heard it before, there's a shift probably heading your way as well.
Ha! That's all I need.
It could happen.
When great thinkers talk about union with God, there's this theme that comes through. It's about being in silence. When everyone else is asleep and there are no distractions, when you feel yourself alone with Source. This is the time when you are closest to Source. Being alone with Source is not just about feeling good, it's about a new awareness of my own divinity and what it's capable of achieving. It's all about returning back to the place that you came from. T.S. Eliot has a great quote, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time."
I got a cut.
Wayne, hold there for a minute. Hold there, Wayne, for a second. What is it?
It's a bad angle. I gotta be lower.
How long?
5 minutes.
Wayne, take 5. Just hang there. We're readjusting the shot.
Absolutely, no problem.
You want some water, Dr. Dyer?
No, thanks. I have an ocean here.
Hi, you've reached the office of Alex Chase at ICM. Please leave a message for Alex or Jason at the tone. Thanks.
Alex, it's David. Call me back when you get this. I'm getting a little antsy. I think we should have heard by now. What did the executive say? Do you know anything? And why haven't I had a meeting yet?
See the difference?
Yeah, call me back. I'd appreciate it. Ooh.
Wayne Dyer interviews day 2.
Rolling.
Okay, we'll start with the transition from ambition to meaning.
Great. It's a good idea. I can give you an example from my own life. It might be helpful. When I first started writing, I was very blessed to be considered, quote, successful. My motivation very often became how much money was I going to make on this book? What was my next contract going to look like? How many weeks did it appear on the New York Times bestseller list? What position was it? Did you get on the Tonight Show? Did you get on the Donahue Show?
Hold on, I'm confused.
Yeah?
Yeah, if you were a success, who cares what was motivating you?
Well, I guess you begin to change your definition of what it is that constitutes success. I mean, success can be identified in those terms, and there are other ways to look at it as well.
But there's people listening to you. I mean, where would you be if you didn't initiate it? I mean, it got you started, right?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Are we switching to a Q&A format?
I'm just curious. Sorry.
No, that's okay. It's a very normal question. It's a very common concern that people have. For myself, we talked about my writing, David, and yes, by all means it was successful, but there was a part of me, inside of me, that said, there's something more for me. I was writing books about psychology, your erroneous zones, pulling your own strings, the sky's the limit. All of them were doing well. All of them were bestsellers. It was all, but inside of me, I was shifting. There was a calling to something else, and I could see the shift taking place in my life. And the shift was
It was more in the direction of spirituality. It was more in the direction of higher consciousness. I began to become excited and thrilled by reading people like Krishnamurti, by reading people like Muktananda. And I remember going to my agent and I said, I want to write a book about how to take some of these great spiritual ideas. He said, no. You're going to write a book about sex. He said, this is going to sell. This is like Dr. Ruth has got one, but you're way better than Dr. Ruth. You know, and he's going on and on. And he said, and then I've got a second book for you, and we're going to do a 2-book deal. And you're going to write a book about how to make money. You know, Wayne Dyer's approach to making money. And I'd say, Artie, I said, I can't do that. I said, I have to write about it. He said, no, nobody's going to buy this stuff. He said, that's the airy-fairy stuff. That's out there. That's all that new agey stuff. He said, you don't want to. I said, but I have to write that. That's what I'm living. That's what I'm feeling. It's so exciting. And I remember submitting the proposal to him, and he said, all right, I'll send it in. And they didn't give me much of an advance at all because they didn't even believe in it. But off I went. There was a strong inner kind of feeling that I had something greater to give. I had something that I had to do that was beyond just going through the motions, just doing what I had already mastered, what I knew how to do. I remember when I made the shift, even though there was a little bit of fear, I remember feeling probably the freest that I'd felt ever in my life. I wasn't motivated by whether people are going to buy it, how much money I'm going to make, whether people are going to put me on a bestseller list. Those became external kind of factors. Those became things that started to chase me rather than me chasing it. Basically, I think, David, what I'm trying to say to you is that you get to a place in your life where you start to be guided by something that's larger than yourself. Just stay aligned with what you're here for and stay in harmony with Spirit, with God, with Source. Stay there. And as you stay there, the meaning phase of your life begins to take over. And once you cross over into the afternoon of your life, it's impossible to go back.
Wait. Monday? You can't keep telling me Monday. If it was coming through, it would come through like 5 Mondays ago.
Well, we can take a pause here for a second.
You are not telling me this right now. What do you mean? They're replacing me? You don't know what to tell me? This movie meant everything to me. I bought them this movie! It's my movie! This movie meant everything to me! Damn it!
Okay, this would be a great place to break.
Is he okay, you think?
I think he's gonna be fine. Let's just call it lunch. Everybody get something to eat, okay? And then, as soon as
Lunch is 1/2 hour. If anybody is interested in the Marin County project,
Hey, you up for a late game of golf?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I'll reserve it.
Thanks. You know how long this meeting's going to last after lunch?
I don't really know. I think they're saving some of the big items until the end.
Like what?
Well, they're $1 million down in the San Francisco project. The contractor underbid, now they're over budget.
You know what? Listen, you can catch me up on all that stuff this afternoon when we play golf.
You're not coming back?
Oh, no, I am. I'm going to try. I just, got a lot of work to do.
See you later.
Okay.
Good book?
Not bad. I'm sort of a slow reader, but it's being patient with me.
You said you worked for my husband?
A long time ago. I don't think he remembers me.
Oh, I think he remembers you.
Well, he let a bunch of us go all at once because, he needed to scale back.
Sorry about that.
Hey, it's okay, truly. It's one of the best things that ever happened to me. I needed to try some different things, pursue some other avenues.
Like your music.
Like my music, yeah.
Well, it sounds like your story has a happy ending.
Not yet, I hope.
No.
Don't rush me now.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant you seem happy.
Come on. Hey, you know what? You and Chad ought to come to this party that we're playing at tonight.
Oh, thanks anyway.
Yeah, come on. It's supposed to be a continuous celebration of love. Isn't that what she called it?
Oh, yes, I think she did.
Okay, so you guys have to be there to help us continuously celebrate.
I can't crash a party.
I just invited you.
You can't invite us.
Too late. Sorry. happened?
No.